I am going to tell you of a story of when I went out on a date with a 37-year-old man who is still living with his parents. So, about a year ago, I was trying to find someone online that I could just hang out with. At the time, I did not want to actually meet someone to date. I wasn't in the position to want to date, honestly, and so I just decided, let me go online and see if I can at least find someone that I can talk to. Right away, I actually found a man who I was interested in. Just reading all of his information, like the bio about himself. He said that he worked for a corporate job. He said that, financially he's been doing amazing and he just wants to find someone that he can just spoil and pretty much be happy with. Now, what woman doesn't want to be spoiled? Am I right? So yes, automatically I was like, okay, swipe right, and we ended up matching. We started talking, and he asked me out on a date. I believe the second day. He's like, I really like you. Conversation is just flowing. I kind of feel like we should meet each other. So I agreed. And he planned to meet at a very fancy restaurant that I myself cannot even afford. So the day of the date comes and I am having car issues. So instead of actually meeting at the restaurant, I asked him if there was any way that he could pick me up because I just didn't trust Ubers at all. So he said, yeah, of course. Like, where do you live? I gave him my address. Kind of, not at my actual address because I don't know this guy yet, but it was like 6 houses down just to be safe. And he picked me up right away. This man picked me up in a Mercedes. I was driving a Prius, okay? So that was really nice for me. I was very happy. So we went to the restaurant. We got there and he was ordering a bunch of expensive food. Like, I was, the dollar menu girl. No, this guy was just like going for everything. So our table was pretty packed with a bunch of expensive food. So we're eating and conversating. The night was actually pretty good. He was asking me questions. I was asking him questions. He mainly said he didn't really want to talk about his job because he just didn't want to put it out there yet until he actually knew the person. But he said it was just corporate. That's about it. That's where we left it. And then he also talked about his place. He said, maybe someday you can come to my place. It's like a 4-bedroom. It's a house. It's in this area. It's actually pretty nice. And I was like, oh, like, for being 37, this man is doing amazing. He's doing great. So the night ends. It gets pretty late. We were there for a couple hours. And then the check comes. He puts the card down. And then he goes to the restroom. And so I wasn't trying to be nosy or anything, but I kind of looked at the card and the name that he told me was his name was not the same as it was on the card. And so that kind of weirded me out from the get-go. So then we leave the restaurant and apparently he was driving a little too fast because we got pulled over. So they ask him obviously for his license and the registration. He pulls out both things, and then the police officer, he's like, whose car is this? And I'm just like, whose car is this? It's his car. Like, who else would own this car? And then he's like, oh, it's my mom's car. It's your mom's car? Now that's the second thing that weirded me out. Yeah, that's pretty weird. I mean, he told me it was his vehicle when he picked me up, and so whatever. So then he drops me off at the house, he gives me a hug and all of that, and then asks if he can have a kiss. But after all the crap that happened earlier that night, I was kind of like, I'm sorry, like, I don't kiss on the first date, but just message me or call me, we'll continue to talk. So after that date, he asked me if I want to go over to his house to have dinner. I was kind of weirded out, obviously, but then I was like, okay, like, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this is going to be a good night. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. We'll talk about it later. Okay? So yes, I decided to go to his place to have dinner. The house that I showed up to was very big and it was very nice. It definitely was. So we are sitting down and he starts talking and I'm just kind of looking around, just looking at the place, telling him how nice it is. And he's like, oh, do you want to go, and look around? Like, you can see the upstairs and downstairs. And I'm like, oh, sure. Why not? So we start heading to the upstairs. And there's a lot of pictures of, like, this older couple. So I was like, okay. you know, just kept walking. And then we get into a room and it's like set up like an older couple live there. Yeah. And then you can obviously see right away more pictures that were there of the older couple. So I was like, what is this? What is this? So then we go downstairs, and downstairs it was set up more like a 30-something-year-old lived there, you know, like really nice clothes. And then I started looking around and it was, you know, pictures of him and family. The older couple was in those pictures. So I was like, oh, you know, like, is this family? He's like, yeah, they're my parents. And I'm like, nice. I'm like, do they live with you? And he's like, oh no, I live with them. I've been living with my parents for the longest time now. I asked no questions after that. I texted my best friend and asked her if she could call me and act like something was going on so that I can get the fuck out of there. And that's exactly what I did. I left.